Here we have the appendix that reviews dyslexia training programs, specifically the longest standing from the early 1900s, Orton-Gillingham, that also served as the basis for all that followed, particularly Wilson Learning System, and then the training of certified academic language therapist. I'll do first initially a opinion review based on summing what I observed. You can read this, put it on pause to read it, but I'll read it as it's my summary of my opinion, and it's more of an opinion and indicating that it's not extremely thorough, but enough of an impression from what I've seen. But my limited review that follows of well-established approaches and resources applied to teaching reading and writing to dyslexic children is only a preliminary impression. It is noteworthy that Orton-Gillingham, a doctor and educator pair, initially in the mid-1930s, set the foundation in the 1940s and 1950s for diagnosing and providing remedial training for dyslexics. Slow, somewhat cumbersome procedural emphasis on the parts of speech with ability to read developing out of such training. The traditional training very clearly lacks familiarity with how a dyslexic child thinks and feels, which accounts for what strikes me as excessive focus on slow, cumbersome speech and written language comprehension, while not recognizing the often extraordinary mind's eye imaginative creativity of all children, including dyslexic children. That has only recently been given more attention, for example, in the acknowledgement of dyslexic thinking versus the focus on slow, muscular, physical, tongue and mouth activity, prioritizing seeing, then saying, mouthing symbols, words that for the very young disconnects or barely connects with their imaginative, rich brains that often crave speed. Within the past 10 years, phrasing such as multi-sensory immersion and cognitive grasp of overarching storylines suggest a positive direction. Personally, as I went through a lot of the material and reflecting upon what it's like to be a dyslexic, um, I would imagine it's quite rare to have a dyslexic become a doctor or a dyslexic to become a teacher. Yet and you see in all the training material that I had access to, and certainly Orton-Gillingham and the Wilson program, there's no evidence of anyone declaring that they were dyslexic. So the sense then is that, do they really comprehend what it's like, how you feel, how the right side brain dominates, which is now getting to be more of the leanings today. There's some somewhat damning outcomes also, which I'll share here, that where formal evaluations have occurred that indicate unimpressive impact when evaluated by school systems. So these are the statements characterizing Orton-Gillingham and dyslexia and the background. It's good to see the emphasis on multisensory. Yet, as I described, it's the focus, as you'll see on the next slide, is really on speech. The Wilson reading system has been criticized, which you'll see shortly, for commercializing this on a grand scale and controlling certification of tutors, control of only approved training materials, and fundamentally carrying forward the methods that were encouraged by Dr. Gillingham, Dr. Orton and educator Gillingham. This is a breakdown of Orton-Gillingham. They had identified 5 critical elements. It all looks good, good detail, shows very good diagnosis and thinking, except for 3. The emphasis is still on logical order and functional skills. So my point here, I show Jackson Pollock's extraordinary art, Convergence, 1952. Quite an extreme dyslexic. that has absolutely no connection to this. Absolutely not. He lived his life, got through it, developed, as all those other extraordinary achievers who were dyslexic, missed this type of opportunity, yet they succeeded. So my point is missing the imaginative creativity, the speed of the brain, versus emphasizing speech therapy. Formal programs that became quite instituted in 1985 and commercialized and patented, called the Wilson reading system. From formal studies by some school systems had these summary statements available on the web. No discernible effects on fluency or comprehension. The program has been noted as a brilliantly marketed program with many promises and scant research to show it works. So somewhat damning. In 2002, Susan Wilson was bought out by the Alpine Group that made it even more grand scale, marketed and distributed, controlling the production or the certification processes at cost to anyone who was going to be an aspiring tutor, and expensive, the only say approved materials to use in those programs once you were certified. It's not to take away from those who do this, because ultimately the one-on-one attention to dyslexic kids with this type of training, I'm sure has impact and can be helpful. But as I shared, not acceptable, let's say, or clear evidence when introduced on a larger scale in schools. There's a program that's more speech-based for language therapy, certified academic language therapist, probably very good for one-on-one consultation. I don't know. It again, though, goes back to Orton-Gillingham and an emphasis on speech. Again, that when I say cumbersome, it's speech as focusing on the feel of saying words and syllables, the phonemic components of speech with your moving mouth, feeling the tongue first. I just can't imagine that as a dyslexic kid with an active mind, creatively thinking about dreams and fun and play and stories being told. It's the speed of thought. It's not the speed of the tongue. So you can go back with this appendix, pause it, look at it yourself. It's sharing. Again, it's still a preliminary opinion that I'm sharing, and I'm sure there's even much more and variable programs available for dyslexic kids, I trust.